Hey there. So, my next guest is with a design studio and he loves his job. You can tell he loves it because he's got this smile on his face the whole time. And the best part of this interview is he talks us through how he got there in the first place. It wasn't like his life goal to do this. And he goes through that story. But once he figured out this is where he wanted to be, there's nothing else he would rather do. And I really genuinely love this episode myself. And I know you all will too. Hey there, everybody. Welcome back to the Gamerpreneur podcast. I'm your host, Dr. Bradford Carlton. Today I have a very special guest with us. I have Corbin Reeves. Hey there, Corbin. How's it going?
It's going pretty good.
Wonderful. And where do you hail from, Corbin?
I am from the Ann Arbor, Michigan area, just about an hour south of Detroit.
Very nice. Probably a little cold right now.
Oh, a little bit chilly.
It's not like you got that polar vortex over top of you or anything, right?
Right. Never.
All right. So, Corbin, I like getting this show started just right into it. So why don't you begin by just telling us a little bit about yourself, please?
Yeah. So I'm 25 years old. I've lived in Michigan my whole life. I've been a huge fan of video games. I've been playing since Unreal Tournament way back in the day with my dad, much to my mother's displeasure. But my dad told me when I was a kid, they're like, oh, they're robots. They're not real people. And so that's how I played Unreal Tournament back when I was like 5 with my uncles back on the original voice chat where you just took your phone, your corded phone, and you talked to each other back and forth as you played. But I ended up going to Eastern Michigan University where I actually studied psychology for 4 years. And about halfway through my psychology program, I made the decision that psychology wasn't necessarily what I wanted to continue to focus on. And I met some pretty awesome individuals, Dr. Pamela Spielman, Larry Cooperman, and Austin Yarger. And they kind of helped guide me in the direction of games and game development. Larry Cooperman helped me kind of realize how my business experience kind of connected to games. Dr. Spielman helped me realize how my education-based experience, because I had been running a YMCA program for about 7 years before going to college, how that connected into games and how my passion for like education and teaching in a fun and inventive way worked for game design. And Austin Yarger helped me realize that programming and game design is not as scary as people may make it out to be. And then from there, I switched kind of what my focus was on. And I've been working through a master's MFA program in game design since opening my studio here at Azure Ravens Entertainment about 2.5 years ago.
That is incredible. You're not old enough to have had that much experience yet.
It's been a hectic couple of years.
I'm sure. And I want to talk about all of it. However, before I do, I start every interview with a single question. So I'm going to ask you just like I ask everybody else. All right. Mm-hmm. On a scale of 1 to 10, 10 being high, how weird are you, Corbin?
Oof, that's a hard question. So I like to consider myself a pretty normal individual, but if we were to ask everybody I work with, probably a brisk 9 or 10.
And why is that?
I have been told that we are a little eccentric here at our studio. We are, everybody who works here, and myself included, are major nerds. We love video games, and basically it gets to the point where it's just like somebody comes up with an idea, and instead of just kind of like backing off and being like, okay, well, let's think this through, I'm kind of a dive in head first kind of person, and we'll figure it out. Hopefully the water's deep enough. And an obsession with games, just an absolute obsession with games.
I love it. I love it. All right. So this is the Gamerpreneur podcast. So I do need your gaming cred. You kind of already gave me a little bit about that. You started with Unreal Tournament when you were roughly 5 or so. Was that the first video game you ever played?
The first one I can remember, yeah. And that was with my dad. And it was really just when he would get up for a second or two, he'd put me in a corner and he'd say, if anything comes across the screen, move the mouse and click. And that was my first experience. And then I would hear my uncle screaming through the corded phone as they would run around the corner, and I'd click and they would fall.
All right, wonderful. And obviously, I mean, you work at a studio. Like
Right.
your love of gaming's had to have continued. Like
Oh yeah.
what continued that passion for you?
So multiplayer games has always been my major driving force. I am a hugely social person. Multiplayer gaming has been my driving passion. My dream is to work on MMORPGs for a living. That has been something that has been near and dear to my heart since the original World of Warcraft, all the way through. I still play today.
Hoarder
But
Alliance.
Alliance all the way.
Yes, finally. Yes.
I have never played, so I can't say that. I played very briefly on the Horde back in Legion because my entire friend group switched, and then I just got new friends.
I love it. All right, and what do you play today?
Currently, I'm playing Shadowlands pretty obsessively. I actually got the chance to start a D&D campaign for the very first time about a year and a half ago, and I've been DMing that. And then basically every board game or video game that we can get our hands onto, we play kind of on and off. But Conan Exiles has also been one that I've been playing with everybody here in the office. We spin up private
That's a
servers.
throwback.
Yeah. We'll spin up a private server for a game, and then we'll just run that for like a month or two, and then we'll switch to a new one.
Wonderful. All right. Let's get over to the preneur, because I want to talk about the preneur part of what we're here for. I want to know about your studio. Please tell me everything.
Yeah, so my studio's name is Azure Ravens Entertainment, and that was the name is an accident. So the name was actually back from a old World of Warcraft guild that I used to run with all my friends. And when I first got into game design and development, I got a few small projects to do independently. And I was like, oh my gosh, I need to open up a business. I need to open up an LLC. Well, okay, I'll just go with Azure Ravens Entertainment because Azure Ravens is the old guild name. We'll call it that. Good enough, right? I never thought it would be anything. And I did a couple of client projects just myself. And then a bunch of my friends from college all asked, hey, we want to build a game together. Do you want to be the designer on the project? And I said, sure. Yeah, I'd love to. I had already worked on a few projects at this point, and I was like, yeah, I'd love to work on a project with all of you guys. And we worked in my tiny apartment. And then all of a sudden we're like, hey, we have this client who wants to do a project. We got to open a studio. And I was like, well, I kind of already have one if we want to just use that. And we're like, yeah, we'll just use that for a little bit. And then everybody kind of just fell in love with the name and the company and the team, and we've kind of just grown since then. And it's kind of been a wildfire that was caused by a whole bunch of accidents. Happy accidents, but accidents.
That's fantastic. I love that story. All right. And what is it that you guys are working on, if you're allowed to tell me?
Yeah. So we're working on a few projects, and thankfully we have some wonderful clients. So we're not really locked into any aggressive NDAs. But on a personal end, we like to make a bunch of weird stuff. So we decided to make a board game about a year ago, just randomly. So we've been working on that. And we call that game, it's called Goblin Chief. And it's a dungeon crawling kind of a player party adventure game. Kind of the closest that I've heard and closest that I've played to it is like the board game Munchkin.
I love Munchkin. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, it's a great game. We play it here in the office all the time. We're working on a VR blacksmithing game called Goblin Forge. Not the same system, but hey, and that is a VR blacksmithing game set in a fantasy setting that we've been working on and developing for about a year and a half. And that's our personal private project that we've been doing just for us. And we've been funding that through contract game development, which is what we do mostly throughout our days. We've developed a charity application that is more simplistic mobile games to raise money for good causes. And so we've done that. We're still building on that and expanding the game repertoire for that. And we're currently working with a local studio here in Michigan to build and develop a virtual production pipeline for Unreal Engine to make films locally here in Michigan and kind of bring the film industry back to Michigan.
That's awesome.
So
very cool. All right, now Corbin, part of my mission on this show is to show people, my audience, that what my guests are doing are feasible career choices, that this is something they can actually go into and make a living at.
Yeah.
Are you guys making any money doing this, or is this still kind of just a passion project?
Yeah. So we do turn a profit. Now with the year of COVID COVID's been a little bit rougher, but thankfully we were able to kind of hang on from our previous year. So in 2019, we turned about 35,000 in profit. So that's after expenses, which is pretty good for us. Now that's after paying staff. That's after doing everything like that. And from a business perspective, a year one profit of 35,000 is pretty solid for us. Especially with us not really launching any projects. It's really just been contract work. And for most game studios, that one big launch of your project is kind of what makes or breaks the studio. Mm-hmm. But with us going with more of a contract-centric focus, it's allowed us to kind of build a slow backlog of cash.
Hey, I'll tell you, as far as most businesses go, having any profit your first year is a big deal.
Right.
That's incredible. All right. Do you enjoy what you do? And like, is this like something that's just a stepping stone? Because you've had, smaller things along the way, you said, and now you're here. Is this it? Have you found your place in life?
That is such a hard question. And I ask myself that quite often. I made a lot of switches throughout my beginning career path, and I've had a lot of really wonderful opportunities just due to the fact that I've made some amazing friends throughout my life who have been looking out for me. But in the grand scheme of things, if I could see Azure Ravens being successful and me doing it for the next 30, 40 years, I'd love to. That would be amazing. But we always keep that realistic aspect when it comes to running a studio. When we all got into this, we said we're going to do our best every single day to make sure that if our studio goes under, the next one will be happy to take us. And so that's kind of how we approach every project that we do, is let's give it our best shot. Let's see what we can do, and let's make the absolute best thing we can make.
Okay, fantastic. Now, talking a little bit more about you personally, Corbin, what makes you special? Because, there's plenty of studios out there. There's plenty of people working at studios, but you are actually having some amount of success where others are still struggling. What makes you different? What is it, a unique skill or talent, or like what?
So that is something that we talk about a lot. So I run IGDA Ann Arbor here with Austin Yarger, and our whole goal is to help empower the Michigan game development community to be successful and to do things like that. And the best thing I can say about our success, as cheesy as it is just overwhelming confidence that we'll figure it out. Anytime a client asks, oh, hey, can you do this? Oh, yeah, we can 100% do this. Have you done this before? Not a chance. I've never done this. Under the sun, never. My first job in games was as a narrative designer for a small studio, Avalon Games, located in, I think they were in Wyoming, and I was a remote contractor. And they were like, hey, have you ever written for games before? I was like, no. They're like, can you do it? I was like, oh, yeah, 100%. Sure, I can. They're like, well, what's your plan? I was like, I'm going to read everything I can find. I'm going to look up everything I can do. And I'm going to spend the next, I have 2 weeks until I start. The next 2 weeks, every waking minute, figuring out how to do it. And then when I come in, I'm going to keep learning and figuring out how to do it until I figured it out.
That's actually a very rare quality. A lot of people aren't willing to do that. So, good for you, man.
It's been the only thing for us that I can narrow down to our success is that we say yes when a client asks if we can do it, and then we hammer at it until we figure it out. There's no, and we nurture this continuous learning mentality, so much so that pretty much everybody in our studio is considering a master's degree at this point, just because it's so, hey, what have you learned this week? Hey, I saw this new thing came out for Unreal Engine. What have you learned? We use Unreal, we use Unity. It doesn't matter. It's just kind of like if your comfort zone is one thing, that's awesome. But now you're going to learn something outside of your comfort zone this week because we have to.
Absolutely. Now, on that continuous learning point, what resources are you turning to be able to do that? You're not just like pulling it out of the air with osmosis, right?
Right. Yeah. So right here on this bookshelf, there's like 2 racks, and then there's a bookshelf off in the corner. I buy every book that we can on game development, game programming, on systems engineering, whatever we can find out there. Then we also utilize YouTube. YouTube's wonderful. But we also dig into any of the white papers. We try to keep up on whatever's going on in the industry. We have a printer here at the office that they forced me to buy because I don't believe in printers, but they forced me to buy a printer, and we've used it every single day. We'll print out copies of whatever PDFs come out from white papers from Unreal Engine, from Unity, just to try to keep up with whatever's happening because we don't want to be left behind. As an indie studio, it's very easy to kind of get set in our ways on what we're building, what we're making, and saying, okay, well, this has been successful for us. Let's hope it continues to be. And it's one of those things that I've seen a lot of studios don't spend any time or money really on R&D at a small level. They're always just like, let's focus on what works and carve that out.
Absolutely.
And I have a few too many people to worry about just focusing on what worked at the moment.
Fantastic. All right, Corbin, this has been great. Let's go back in time for a second.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you're still rather young, but don't let anybody hold that against you ever. Like I'm 34 and people still hold it against me that I'm young. Like, come on. With that said, if you could go back in time to when this whole journey really first began, before the studio really began, before like when you first started getting an interest, if you could go back and you could talk to little Corbin back then, and you could tell him everything that was going to happen over the next, several years of his life. But this is the one thing he has to know. What is that one thing?
It's okay to start. It's okay to start. I put off jumping into games for so long. I got a 4-year degree in something that I didn't really like that much because I was the first one in my family to go to college, and I didn't want to waste that opportunity. And I was just like, man, I gotta do something with this. Making games is something. It's something that you enjoy, and it is okay to get started. And it is not going to be fast, and it's not going to be tomorrow. And you're not going to be some amazing game designer extraordinaire overnight, but it's a little step every single day and just keep stepping forward.
Wonderful. That's beautiful. All right. And do you have any other advice for anybody else who's, looking to follow in your footsteps to start a studio like this?
Yes. Make friends as fast and as often as you can with everyone, and just be a genuine nice person. This industry, everybody's so full of fear when they first get into the industry that this industry's, cutthroat. Everybody's aggressive. Everybody's looking out for me, myself, and I. I have yet to meet a single individual who is like that. And I've gone to conferences. I've gone to random launch parties for games where somebody was just like, "Hey, man, you want to come?" And I've made a ton of friends along the way. So much so that we don't look for contracts. We don't apply for contracts. We don't do anything like that. They are sent to us pretty consistently. And it's just because my friends that I've met along the way have literally said, hey, there's this guy I know, and I'm pretty sure he can help you out. And if he can't, he knows somebody else who can. And then any contract that we can't do, we send to somebody else. And it just creates this ecosystem and this chain of you looked out for me, so I'm looking out for you. And it, like, the gaming industry is such a kind and caring place that if you just kind of put yourself out there as one of those individuals, you'll only get that back.
Absolutely. As we say in the business world, your network is your net worth.
Yes.
Okay. Now, Corbin, at this point, I want to get a little deep with you. Okay, you were a psychology major, you said, right?
Yeah.
So I want to get in here, and I want to, I personally believe that it's our failures that make us, not necessarily our successes, because you might succeed, not know what happened, but you can fail and you have to like pick that apart, figure out what went wrong in order to be able to move forward and grow from it. So I'd like to ask you, what do you consider your biggest failure in life, and what did you learn from it?
Man, so I have had as much fun as I'm having now, and as successful as it seems in moments. I've definitely tasted failure pretty heavily. When I was 17 years old, I decided that I wanted to follow in the footsteps of my uncles, and I wanted to join the U.S. military. I wanted to focus on joining the Marine Corps. And I was overweight. I am now, but I was overweight at 17. And I dropped 100 pounds in a year. And I got in the best shape of my life at 18 years old. And if you ever find photos of me at 18 versus now, it's night and day different. 17 and 18, night and day different. But I missed my weight limit by 5 pounds. And I hit it the Friday or Thursday or Friday before, and we traveled up to MEPS, and I was so excited. And I had gotten 3 job offer slots, and because that's how the Marine Corps works, you go to boot camp and they tell you what job you're going to get. You don't get to pick. You get to pick the top 3 and you hope for the best. But due to all of the effort and work I'd put in, I had been guaranteed one of my top 2, and I was just ecstatic, over the moon. And I got there and I stepped on the scale, confident as could be that I was going to hit that number, be good to go. And I was 5 pounds up. And I could not remember what happened, what occurred from Thursday to now to make that not a thing. And I remember just looking at my recruiter and my a person who I considered a good friend at the time, Gunnery Sergeant Launder. And he just looked at me and he's like, "You're not going to make it. You're not going to go." And I said, what does this mean? He goes, "This means that you've lost your job slot and we'll see what we can do for you." And they brought me back to our station. I sat silently for an hour and a half as we drove back to Livonia. And I sat down with the head of my recruiting station and he gave me an option. He said, "I don't have any good slots for you. Nothing here is what you're going to want to do. Nothing here is what we want for you to do. But those are your options. You can take a pretty crap job for 2 years and then try to transfer to what you want to do." And I scored high enough on the ASVAB to not have to do that. But he said, "Hey, you could do it for 2 years and then we'll transfer you and see what we can do for you. Or you can walk out of here right now." He goes, "And I'll give you that option to walk out of here right now as a failure to ship." And I could not imagine, after being excited for a year to get to do what I wanted in life, doing something I absolutely hated. And so I said, "I'm going to walk out." And he goes, "Okay, but everybody who's been with you for the last year and working with you and built this whole support system, you'll be stepping away from it." And I said, "Yes." He said, "Well, I hope you the best of luck. And I hope I don't see you at a factory job somewhere." And I walked out and I did not do it. I went home and I played Halo. I sat in my grandmother's chair, ate Cheez-Its and played Halo for like 3 days. Just could not even process what had just happened in my life because I was supposed to leave. I was supposed to be gone right now. And my dad finally came up to me and he goes, "Hey, this threw you for a loop. What's next?" My family is one of those. "Okay, I'm sorry something bad happened. You have a day to recover from that bad thing. Now you got to keep stepping forward. What's next?" And I said I had no idea. "I guess I'll go to college. I'll figure it out, I guess. Is that what normal people do?" And my dad was like, "Yeah, that's what most people do in life is they go to college and they try to figure it out." And then I bounced from program to program in college. And I actually almost failed out of college. I didn't do good in high school. I graduated bottom of my class in high school.
Hey, but you graduated.
I did. I was 500 out of 512. And I walked across that line in high school. And in college and undergrad, I did pretty rough until I figured it out. And I worked. I moved out at a young age too. But I worked 2 to 3 jobs all throughout college. We struggled pretty hard, me and my now fiance. But we bounced a lot. There was a lot of really late nights, working full time all throughout college to try to figure out what I wanted to do. And then when I found games, it just clicked. And I am very lucky to have that opportunity for it to kind of all snap together. But again, it's being genuine with people. That open and honest and just genuine nature allowed me to kind of connect with people who were looking for the same stuff as me. And
for sure.
Giving me opportunities.
Thank you so much for sharing that. Like, hopefully we didn't dredge up too many painful memories.
No, it's okay. It's been a long time. I've long since come to terms with it, and I wouldn't change anything about my life right now. I'm very happy. I have some amazing friends that I would have never met, and I have an amazing life with full of opportunities. Every failure drives you forward.
Absolutely. Now, on the flip side, that's the failure side. Today, what are you working to improve on yourself?
Yeah. So I cannot draw at all to save my life. And it is a skill that I tell every design student I have that it's an essential skill. Same thing with programming. I struggle with programming as well. I spend every day about an hour or so drawing horrible sketches, but they get better every time. I had an art teacher in undergrad. I worked all semester and I worked very hard. And she said, "Wow, you're really not that good at this." And I said, "Oh, I know, but I've gotten better, right?" And she goes, "A little bit, a very, very small amount." I said, "Okay, well, if I keep doing this for a few years, maybe someday I'll just be not that bad." And she goes, "Maybe." And that's all I'm striving for. I'm striving for not that bad at art. And then programming as well. It's I feel like you've got to constantly push yourself. And software engineering does not come to me very easily. Design and all of that, I could read a dozen books a day and I'd be fine. I read an insane rate, but doesn't matter how many programming books I read. I've got to practice and practice and practice.
I can do hello world. That's the extent of it.
Yes.
It depends on the language too.
Yeah, right. Oh.
Corbin, this has been a fantastic interview. Thank you so much. How do people find you? How do they find Azure Ravens? How do they find, where are you at on social media? All of that, please.
Yeah, so we're really bad at social media, so I preemptively apologize. I love talking to people. I love responding, but I'm really bad at just throwing things out into the void and being like, here's my thoughts on things. Because I'm always so distracted reading other people's amazing thoughts and opinions on things that I'm like, I'll share mine later. But we are on Twitter, Azure Raven at Azure Ravens on Twitter. We have our website where we occasionally post a blog post when I remember to do so. We're not consistent with it. We should be. I'm personally on Twitter under the handle like Captain Azir. It's been a handle that I've rocked for years. But yeah, Twitter. And we are putting together plans to do more and more dev blogs and put those out there.
Beautiful. All right. So as we wrap up then, do you have any final thoughts you want to share or anything I didn't ask you think we still need to cover?
Man, I don't know. We asked a lot of good questions today. I would just encourage you, if you're interested in getting into the game development industry and you're a gamer or anyone, just a long time passion for games, just get started. Take it slow and don't feel like you need to throw millions of dollars or hours and hours of work into it. Every small step builds to the final project, and every small step's valuable and worth it.
Beautiful. All right, Corbin, thank you so much for coming on with us today. I genuinely do appreciate this.
Thanks for having me. It's been a lot of fun.
Absolutely. And for everybody else, I'm going to remind you all, don't be just a gamer, be a gamerpreneur.